This particular kind of park, what I'm envisioning is that it's low maintenance. Mentioned before, it's the slope, the facing of the west-southwest. The forest itself would be maintained, planned and maintained by volunteers. We have several groups here in Moscow as well as the university that would just jump on this. Drip line irrigation, I don't really foresee anything here that would take a regular sprinkler irrigation. Pesticide free, I think this would be the perfect place to try to work with that concept. Sustainable Environment Commission would be on board with this, I think. Through the slopes on this, once it's developed, we would have vistas, envision picnic tables, benches, things like that. Just since the administrative committee last week, we had somebody send me a note and said, why could you not have an integrated type of a park where you might still be able to have a small tot lot down toward the bottom. And so as we would go through the actual planning process to put this all together, things like that would be brought into the equation and considered. We've always envisioned with this a shelter, basically just a park shelter, but when you think about fruits and vegetables, nuts, things like that, where you would have classes and things, you would need a shelter to do some of that. Right here you have a cider pressing class, and instructors talking about the actual trees and the fruits. The pathway to be ADA would be paved. Park oversight, I would envision the tree commission having oversight of that. They would likely have a subcommittee that would, basically be geared just straight for this, strictly for this particular kind of park. STEM, the big thing in the schools. Perfect environment for such a thing. The new Palouse Prairie Charter School will just be down the road. Matter of fact, that's part of the preliminary plat, where it's not where the original property is, but it's of the parkland that we have now, but it's right over next to that. And of course, kiosks, information. There's a gazillion things that could be done here, and we're pretty excited about it. Here's that property. Now, I'm just going to tell you, this picture really doesn't do it justice. When you walk out there, I mean, it looks a lot steeper. But this is farm ground. Combines, and granted we use levelers here, but this is farmed land. So it's not all that steep. Another view, this property right here is part of it. It's already planted with trees, and there might be some more trees put in there, but likely that would remain fairly close to what it is now. But it's a good segue into the park from that direction. Right where the vehicle is a curb cut, so there would be access to get in right there. My vision anyway at the moment would be right in here would be where that booster station would be. So it would be out of our way and still be accessible for our water department. And trees are our best antiques. Just remember, in 100 years, when those walnut trees are still growing over there and we're long gone, our grandchildren will be out there and talking to their kids about our trees. And with that, tonight's recommendation is for the City Council approval of the Parkland Exchange and Dedication Agreement between Indian Hills Trading Company and the City of Moscow regarding the parkland for Indian Hills 8th subdivision and the remaining adjacent unplatted Indian Hills Trading Company property. And I'm available for any questions.
Okay, Dwight. Even though this isn't a public hearing, I'm going to ask for public comment if there's anybody out there that would like to speak, but before I do that, comments from the council. This was on an administrative committee.
Yes, sir.
Gina?
Dwight, will you show us, please, the parking again? I lost it from when you showed me earlier, and I wanted you to walk us all through it. It's along the side there,
Yes.
Right on there.
and that's where the 58 or however
Well,
many
it's on this
spaces are.
side, and there's some on the
And
other
across the
side
side.
as
Okay.
well.
Awesome. Okay. Art, you had some questions at the meeting the other day. Did you
Yeah.
get those answered?
Yeah, I did. So really good job on getting those questions answered that I had at the first hearing. And in the meanwhile, I haven't heard any negative comments about the swap going on. One item that just came to mind relative to the long-term park planning and thought going to it is you got an edible forest here. And edible means things are going to show up to eat. And so there's mice, and there's rats, and there's
Squirrels.
skunks, and there's squirrels. And then with all of that, you've got the other critters that eat the edible critters that are there eating the edible forest. And pretty soon you've got a whole little ecosystem of potentially conflicting wildlife with nearby residents. The lovely aroma of skunk wafting up the hill to Indian Hills. So is the Parks Commission ready to take that one on to try to keep the lid on all of that?
Well, the subcommittee or the planning committee that we'll put together with this, we would certainly have the people that would be knowledgeable enough on how to deal with this. If you think about it, Moscow itself is already an edible forest. So,
My nose tells me so at times.
yes. But the majority likely of the skunk aromas are probably from the cars hitting them or dogs. So I think the city already has that issue that we're dealing with. In this case, yeah, it would be more concentrated, but I think that I would believe that we have the expertise in the community that can help us work through those obstacles. There are a lot of things that have to be considered with this. I really hate this slide, but I'm going to show you just because it puts a little bit into perspective. Okay, I was not drinking. I just couldn't hold that little line right. But the Pathways Commission said that people will make their own trail to get to the bottom as quickly as they can, or a shortcut, basically. So we're going to have to deal with that. We do have winters here, even in April, and so we'll have issues, with that sort of thing. So a lot of things have to be covered here. We want to go pesticide free. That's not something that Moscow Parks and Rec has dealt with before. We're working with the Sustainable Environment Commission on how to do that. We're still waiting to have more discussions, but we were hoping to have a park as a prototype to work this out in. I don't know that we'll get to this quickly enough, development-wise, to do that, so we'll probably pick another park. So we might have some experience with that prior to getting to this. And then just the rules. Do you close? Are we going to put lights in there? I mean, just a lot of things. And one of the big topics would be, how do you keep one person or one group of people going in and cleaning out
Right.
the edible forest? And so we have a lot of work to do on that part. It just didn't seem really logical to go into that much detail until we knew whether or not we had property to do it on.
Some of those problems you won't even know about until after the thing is done.
Yes,
Things will come up, it's like, oh, well, that will spring up.
sure. And there are other edible forests throughout the United States, and so it's not like we're having to start completely from scratch. We'll try to take advantage of others, their experiences, and try to work this out.